So Young v. Hawaii, a Ninth Circuit case dealing with open carry, is now seeking certiorari or review by the Supreme Court. So let's talk about this. But real quick, before we jump into this video, if you think that the only rationale you need to carry a firearm is your Second Amendment right, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. I also want to give a shout out to one of the main sponsors of the channel, that is USCCA. Through your membership, you get training, education, and self-defense liability protection. So if you carry a firearm, I highly recommend you look into USCCA, and I'll put a link to them down in the details section. So Young v. Hawaii, this is a case we've covered quite a bit on this channel. Recently, there was an en banc review, which means an 11-judge panel review in the Ninth Circuit on this case, and ultimately, the 11-judge panel found that when reviewing this case, there was no fundamental right under the Second Amendment for you to carry a firearm out in public. This dealt with specifically open carry in the state of Hawaii, and actually the issue of concealed carry was not at issue in Young v. Hawaii because under Ninth Circuit precedent in the Peruta case, the Ninth Circuit had already dealt with the issue of having no Second Amendment right to concealed carry. So ultimately in the Ninth Circuit, you have no right to carry a firearm out in public under the Second Amendment. That is the Ninth Circuit precedent. Young v. Hawaii has kind of been one of these back and forth cases. The three-judge panel in the Ninth Circuit found that the Hawaii statute did violate the Second Amendment and your Second Amendment right to carry a firearm openly in public. And then ultimately on review, the 11-judge panel, the en banc review, found that you have no fundamental right under the Second Amendment to carry a firearm open in public. Well, now you have Mr. Young seeking certiorari or review from the Supreme Court. So I'll put a link to all this down in the detail section that I'm going to be talking about if you want to review it for yourself. But what's most important is the question presented to the Supreme Court. So when something goes up for certiorari or up for a cert review by the Supreme Court, you have to present a question or a general overview of the issue that you want the Supreme Court to resolve. And the questions presented in this case are two. First, whether the Ninth Circuit erred in holding in direct conflict with the holdings of the First, Seventh, and DC circuits that the Second Amendment does not apply outside the home at all. So ultimately, that was the determination by the en banc panel in Young, the Ninth Circuit review, is they ultimately found that there was no Second Amendment right to carry a firearm outside in public openly at all. The second question presented to this Supreme Court is whether the denial of the petitioner's application for a handgun carry license for self-defense violated the Second Amendment. Now, this is important because this is a paralleled question that they are presenting here in Young, which was recently taken up by the Supreme Court and recently granting cert in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Corlett. Recently, April 26th, the Supreme Court granted cert in that Second Amendment case, specifically on the question and narrowed the question presented that they will address in that case to whether the state's denial of petitioners' applications for concealed carry licenses for self-defense violated the Second Amendment. Again, they narrowed the question presented in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association to that issue. The question originally presented in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association to the Supreme Court was similar to kind of what Young was trying to do, which we just talked about. The original question presented in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association was whether the Second Amendment allows the government to prohibit ordinary, law-abiding citizens from carrying handguns outside the home for self-defense. In New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, the Supreme Court decided to narrow that issue, specifically talking about the justification for actually issuing licenses to carry a concealed firearm to self-defense, saying whether or not self-defense is a proper justification. So they narrowed on that issue. Now you have Young saying, hey, we want to address that issue as well, but also the broader issue of whether or not the Second Amendment extends outside of your home. Now, whether or not the Supreme Court will take up Young, we're not sure. A lot of people were anticipating that maybe if the Supreme Court was going to take up any of these Second Amendment cases, it would be Young, just because of how drastic that Ninth Circuit decision was, pretty much saying that your Second Amendment rights do not extend outside the home at all. And here in the cert petition of Young, you have them saying, hey, you're taking up New York State Rifle and Pistol Association. We are dealing with a similar question here, just in the open carry aspect, but also the broader issue of whether or not the Second Amendment extends outside the home, and also dealing with all these circuit splits right now, because you have the Ninth Circuit saying absolutely not. Open carry or your ability to carry a firearm outside the home is not under the Second Amendment. And then you have all these other circuits saying, hey, you do have a right under the Second Amendment to carry a firearm out in public. Now, traditionally, the Supreme Court likes to address circuit splits, but has been very hesitant to address Second Amendment cases until recently when they took up the Corlett case. But again, when they took that case, they narrowed the issue specifically to that question of whether or not self-defense is a good enough justification for the issuance of permits, and kind of punted on the larger, broader Second Amendment question. And that broader Second Amendment question is also present here in Young. So whether or not they take up that issue, we're not sure, but if they really wanted to, and they wanted a cleaner case, and they wanted to really address a circuit court who was saying pretty much that the Second Amendment does not extend to the outside the home at all, this Young case is perfect for that, because the Ninth Circuit pretty much said, looking at the text, history, tradition of the Second Amendment, there was no evidence that the Second Amendment extended outside the home. So this would be a perfect case to deal with that broader question. Now, one of the things also that they did in the cert petition, they said, hey, if the Supreme Court did not want to address this right now, please hold it pending a decision in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Corlett. So if the Supreme Court decides that case, finds it favorable, in the favor of the Second Amendment, maybe then they could take up the Young case and hold the Young case until they actually address this other Second Amendment case. But it's going to be interesting to see what exactly the Supreme Court does. Maybe they will take up a slew of Second Amendment cases. Maybe they will take up Young. But I just want to let you guys know that Young is up for cert in the Supreme Court. So we will see whether or not they will take another Second Amendment case, whether they will punt on it, or maybe just hold it for a determination in the case that they are addressing right now in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Corlett. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and comment down below, and I'll try to answer to the best of my ability. Also, if you guys like this video and like support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, subscribe, and make sure to hit that notification bell, because that helps the channel analytics, helps to spread the word about the Second Amendment, also spread the word about two-way news like this that is going on in the US. So as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.